Good morning, everybody. Today we will discuss about one topic, that is the species interactions. And this species interaction is coming under your semester 1 of 4 course 103, unit 4, page number 2. So in this species interaction, we have to discuss about the interactions of different species. If you think of this is the topic we have to discuss. What are the important points to discuss in these species interactions? So if you think about the planet Earth, the planet Earth consists of different spheres like the hydrosphere, atmosphere. So these are the different the components of the planet Earth, and these spheres, in all the spheres of the planet Earth, the life not exists. So the component of the Earth where the life exists, that part of that component is called as the biosphere. So biosphere is the component of the planet Earth where the life exists. Because this biosphere contains the two important components, the physical factors, which is also called as the abiotic factors and the biotic factors. So these abiotic factors and biotic factors that constitute to form the biosphere, and the biotic component that depends upon the abiotic component. And if you think about the biosphere, there is about different varieties of the species are present. And if you think about the biosphere, in this biosphere, different varieties of the species are present, and these species they interact with the physical factors or the biological factors. So if you think about the components of the biosphere includes biosphere. This is the combination of the abiotic component, and another one is the biotic component. So if you think about the abiotic and biotic component, what are the important components of this abiotic component of the biosphere? That is your soil, then the water, then the air, etc. These are the different components of the abiotic factors or the physical factors. Now, if you think about this biotic component of the biosphere, how this biotic component exists in the biosphere. And this biotic component includes all the living beings or the living organisms. So these living organisms, they interact with this abiotic component of the biosphere. They interact with this soil, water, air, etc. for their survival. As you know that we respire by intaking the oxygen from the atmosphere, and we are releasing carbon dioxide. Similarly, our habitat, terrestrial ecosystem. So these are the abiotic components of the biosphere where we exist, and we depends upon the abiotic factors. Similarly, all the living organisms of the biosphere, they have to depend upon the abiotic factors or the physical factors of the biosphere. Now, if you think about that biotic component, this biotic component not only depends upon only the abiotic factors, it also depends upon the other components or the other parts of the other individuals or the living organisms which are present in the biotic component. That means the biotic component contains different varieties of the species, and there is about 1.7 million species they are identified till date since 250 years from the Carolingian lands. So the species, they interact among themselves and they interact with the abiotic factors in the biosphere. Then what is the species? Species, if you think about the species, go back. If you think about the species are a group of individuals which are morphologically similar, and they have the ability to exchange the genes. Or interbreeding, they are isolated from other group of individuals. They are isolated reproductively from the other group of individuals. That is the species. So a group of individuals having the morphological similarity and having the ability to exchange their genes or inbreeding ability, and reproductively isolated from other group of individuals. They are the species. So there is around 1.7 million species are there. And all these species, they interact with the aquatic components as well as the other species of the biotic component in the biosphere for their better survival. Now, if you think about the interaction for their better survival, the plants, they interact with the plants. The plants, they interact with the animals. The animals interact with the animals. So here you think about it, here this is a kind of a tree and this is another tree. So this is a plant-plant interaction or plant-plant association or relationship. Similarly, if you think about here, this is the animal-plant interaction. The animal-plant interaction, you know that the different birds or bees, the wasps, the butterflies, they help in the pollination. So here, this is a kind of association between the plants and the animals. And similarly, if you think about this is the animal-animal relationship or animal-animal association. So if you think about the different species which are present in the biosphere, they interact with the physical factors as well as the other component or the other species of that biosphere which are coming under the biotic component. And if you think about the interaction, what is the interaction or interdependence? This is called as interdependence. What is interdependence? Interdependence means the living organism, they depend upon the physical factors or the aquatic factors of the biosphere. And in addition to that, the individuals or the species, they depend upon the other kind of species which are present in the biotic component of the biosphere for their survival. So this kind of the interaction or the relationship or the association is called as interdependence, because living alone is quite impossible. You know about the food chain and food web. So living alone is quite impossible. Therefore, all these species which are present in the biotic component of the biosphere, they have to interact with the other kind of species which are present in the biotic component of the biosphere for their survival. And if you think about here, these are the different diagrams. Here I mentioned that these are the different kind of the interaction where the different species, they interact with the different other kind of species for their better survival. And this is called as the interdependence. This is called as the interdependence. And if you think about the interdependence or this interaction or the relationship, this relationship will always not give the positive result. Sometimes this kind of interaction or interdependence will give the negative result. And that is called as the antagonistic effect. And another, there is no such kind of effect. There is no such kind of effect. Neither positive nor negative. So interdependence means the species, they interact with the other kind of species for their better survival. The outcome of that interdependence is not always positive. It may be positive, it may be negative, or it may be neutral. And here, these are the different kind of, if you think about the different kind of the interaction or the species interaction, that is neutralism. Neutralism means it is a kind of the interaction, or this is an ecological interaction between the individuals of two species. Are you getting my point? So this is a kind of ecological interaction between two different individuals of two different species, where the two species, there is no such kind of positive or the negative effect. Are you getting my point? So the ecological adaptation where two species, they are neither getting any kind of benefit nor they are injured or harmed. That kind of the interaction is called as neutralism. That is called as the neutralism. Here I mentioned that neutralism, 0 upon 0. That means the 0 means that is the individual of the one species, and another 0 means the individual of another species, and upon means that is the interaction. So here the interaction between two species or the individuals of two species, there is no such kind of the positive effect or the negative effect. That is called as the neutralism. And the best example is the robin, birds and squirrels, they survive in the same tree. The squirrels and the robin birds. So the birds and the squirrels, they survive, they live or they share the common habitat or the tree for their survival. there is no harm to the squirrel nor to the birds. So this kind of interaction or relationship is called as mutualism. Next, another one is the amensalism. So amensalism, just like in mutualism, the amensalism is another kind of interaction or the relationship or the association. And in this association, in between these, the one organism is injured, will get the negative effect. One organism is harmed and the other organism is unaffected. So that means one is O, that is neutral, and another one is injured or harmed. So that is the here in amensalism, one individual in that interaction will be getting negative effect. I'm getting my point. So if you think about the ecological interaction where one individual is injured and another individual is neither benefited nor harmed, that is the here in the amensalism. This kind of interaction is usually taking place by a release of chemicals. Therefore, this is a chemical interaction. This is a kind of chemical interaction, and that means one individual of one species secretes or release or produce some kind of chemical substances into the environment. And by the release of that kind of chemical substance, the other individual will interact accordingly. So it is a kind of chemical interaction, and that chemical is called as allelochemicals. That chemical is called as allelochemicals. So what is allelochemicals? Allelochemicals is a kind of chemical substance secreted or produced or released by one individual of one species at the time of amensalism. Are you getting my point? So this is a kind of chemical interaction. And here, this chemical interaction or amensalism is of three different types, depending upon the release of chemicals and their effect. Depending upon the release of the chemicals and their effect, this amensalism is of three different types. One is allomorphs, and another one is chiromorphs, and third one is the depressor. So these are the three different kind of chemical secretion, and these chemical secretion that happens in the amensalism. Now, if you think about the allomorphs, in the allomorphs, here allomorphs is a kind of chemical substance produced by the originator, released by one individual of one species, that is the emitter or the originator. So the originator produce or release that kind of chemical. So the emitter or originator will produce that kind of chemical substance called as the allelochemicals. So allomorphs is a kind of chemical substance released out by the originator or the emitter into the environment. Are you getting my point? Now, if you think about this, after release of that kind of chemical substance, if that will not give any kind of benefit to the receiver individual. Receiver means what? That means the individual of another species interacting with the originator or the emitter. So, if the allomorphs is a kind of chemical substance released out by the originator, and that gives benefit to the originator, not to the receiver. That is, that kind of interaction or chemical interaction is called as allomorphs. The best example is the release of the venom by the snake. The venom released out by the snake. So the snake here is the originator or the emitter, and it releases the venom for its protection. And here, that release of the venom will have the snake, not to the receiver. Not to the receiver. So that kind of amensalism is called as the allomorphs. Similarly, the another one is the chiromorphs. So the chiromorphs, that is another type of chemical substance released by the originator or the emitter, but here the interaction will be reversed. That means this release of chemical substance that gives benefit to the receiver, not to the emitter or originator. For example, if you think about a cat, we have some kind of a body odor. Similarly, in case of the cat releases a kind of chemical substance. Okay, and because of that chemical substance, the cat has a kind of body odor. So the body odor of the cat smelled out by the rat, and that is a kind of signal or warning for the rat that some danger is there. So the rat will go away. Are you getting my point? So the release of the body odor or the release of the odor of the cat will give negative effect to the cat, not to the rat. So that kind of the interaction or commensalism is called as the chiasmos. So chiasmos, where the chemical substance is released from the emitter or the originator, but that gives the benefit to the receiver, just opposite to the allomos. The last one is the depressant. Depressant is also a kind of the chemical secretion, and particularly by the microbes, the bacteria, the fungi. So the bacteria and the fungi, they secrete different kind of secretions that inhibits or poison the receiver. That inhibits or poison the receiver. That type of chemical substance or the allomos are called as the depressant. So the depressant is called, in case of the microbes, they release some kind of toxins or the poisons, and that will poison the body of the receiver. That is called as the depressant. So the commensalism is a kind of species interaction where one individual is neutral and another individual is injured or harmed by the secretion of this kind of chemical substance. Another one, this is much more important, that is the symbiosis. Usually we believe that the symbiosis is a kind of interaction. Listen carefully what I am telling you. The symbiosis, we believe that it is a single kind of special interaction. Actually, the symbiosis is not a single kind of animal association. It is a spectrum of relationships, or it is a spectrum of animal association, or it is a spectrum of species interactions. So, if you think about the symbiosis, most of the time the students, they confuse between the difference between the symbiosis and the mutualism. The mutualism and the symbiosis both are not same. The symbiosis is the combination of three things or three important interactions. What is that? So if you think about the symbiosis, in case of the symbiosis, it consists of three different types of interactions. Symbiosis, here, three important kind of interaction. One is your mutualism, and another one is your commensalism, and third one is your mutualism, commensalism, and third one is your parasitism. So these are the three important kind of the species interaction. They are coming under the symbiosis, and therefore the symbiosis is a mixture of different animal association or animal interactions. Now, if you think about the mutualism, what is mutualism? And if you think about the symbiosis, here sometimes what will happen, one individual is neutral and another individual is getting benefit. I'll give you the example. And sometimes both the individuals of two different species, they will get benefit in this kind of animal association or interaction. So what is mutualism? If you think about the mutualism is a symbiotic relationship. It is coming under the symbiosis. It is a symbiotic interaction between the two species or the individuals of two species where both the species were getting benefit. Both the species are getting benefit. So the mutualism is a very good interaction between two different species where they will get both the individuals of both species, they get the benefit. So here, if you think about the mutualism, this is the best example of the mutualism. That is the interaction of two important species. One is the goby fish and another one is the shrimp. Mostly, if you think about the goby fish and the shrimp, they live together. They live together. And the shrimp actually, what the shrimp will do? The shrimp will make the burrow for their, or they make the burrow for to take rest, to live, to survive. So the shrimp will make the burrow where both the individuals, they will live together. That is the resting place for them. Now, when any kind of a predator will come, then the goby fish will touch the shrimp. The goby fish will touch the shrimp by the help of their tail. And that touching of the goby fish by the help of the tail into the shrimp is a kind of signal to the shrimp that some danger is coming. That is the signal of danger. So the goby fish will touch by the help of the tail to the stream, so that what will happen? The stream and the goby fish both, they will retreat the burrow. They will retreat the burrow, and so that until the predator will go out. In that way, they protect themselves from the predator. So both the individuals, that means the goby fish as well as the stream, they are getting benefit in this interaction. Similarly, if you think about the another one, that is the cross pollination. I think you know in the plant science about the pollination. What is pollination? The pollination is the transfer of the pollen from the anther into the stigma of the plants or the flowering plants, from the same plant or into the different plants. That is called as the pollination. And if you think about the cross pollination, usually takes place by different kind of the bees, the wasps, the butterflies. These are the different agents. They are the very good pollinators. They transmit this kind of pollens from one flower into the another flower in the plant science. Now, here if you think about what kind of interaction is, this is a kind of mutualism. In this mutualism, the insect they are getting the nectar from the flower, the food from the flower, and they are cross-pollinating the flower. So in both the way, both the individuals, the flower or the plant and the butterfly or the bees or the wasp, they are getting benefit. One is getting the nectar or the food, and another getting the help in reproduction. So this is another kind of example of the mutualism. This mutualism, if you think about this mutualism is of two different types. Mutualism. One is the obligatory, and another one is your facultative. That means one is here the obligatory and the facultative. People think, what is the difference between these two? In obligatory, the two individuals, they are closely contact and interdependent. Underline interdependent. So obligatory mutualism, that is interdependent and close contact always, otherwise they will not survive. The best example is the hermit crab and the sea anemone. The sea anemone gives a protection, and the hermit crab that helps in locomotion. So this is the best example of the obligatory mutualism, where both individuals are benefited and they have a very close interaction, and they are interdependent. However, in case of the facultative mutualism, the association or the attachment is rare. The association or the attachment or the contact is rare. For example, the crocodile and the birds. So when the crocodile will come out from the water into the soil, then the crocodile will open its mouth. And when it will open its mouth, the birds will enter into the buccal cavity or the oral cavity. And then they will clean up the mouth cavity or the buccal cavity of the crocodile. So the birds are getting the food from the oral cavity of the crocodile, and the mouth cavity will be cleaned by the birds. So in that way, both the individuals are getting benefit, but there is no such kind of close contact or interdependency. That is called as the facultative mutualism. So obligatory, interdependent, and facultative, there is no such kind of interdependent, that is rare attachment is there. Now, this is about the mutualism, where both individuals are getting benefit. Now, the another one is your commensalism. So, if you think about the commensalism, what is commensalism? The commensalism is another kind of symbiotic association like the mutualism, where one species benefits while the other species is not affected. So, in mutualism, plus is there, but here plus and zero. One individual is getting benefit, but another individual is neither benefited nor injured or harmed. That kind of interaction is called as the commensalism. So this commensalism, like the mutualism, is of two different types. One is the permanent commensalism, and another one is here. This one is permanent commensalism, and another one is the temporary commensalism. commensalism. So what is the difference between these two then? In both the cases, one individual is getting benefit. And in case of the permanent commensalism, they are permanently depend upon one individual or one species that depend upon the another species. And getting my point, that is called as the permanent commensalism. In permanent commensalism, the permanently depend on the individuals of the other species in that association or in that relationship. For example, the microbes which are present on our body surface. The microbes which are present in our body surface, they extract the secretion from different glands which are present in the skin or body surface. I'm getting my point, but that not harms the human beings. But they are getting the benefit, the microbes. So that is the best example, close association. Similarly, if you think about the birds and the trees, the trees provide the shelter for the birds without harming anything. So the birds are getting benefit in that association, but not the trees. So the trees are neither benefited nor injured in this kind of interaction. So that is called as the permanent commensalism, where one individual is getting benefit, the another individual is neither harmed nor injured. Similarly, if you think about the temporary commensalism, this is the association between two important or the two individuals of two different species, which is temporary without harming the others. But the association or the interaction or the relationship is not permanent. That is temporary. So in this case, the in temporary association, they are coming contact for some time, not always. For example, the shark and the suckerfish. You know, in case of the suckerfish, they have an adhesive pad. They have adhesive attachment organ. So this adhesive pad on the attachment organ, by the help of this organ, the suckerfish will attach into the body of the shark. And when the shark will move inside the water, then they also move and they conserve energy. Are you getting my point? So the suckerfish is provided with a very good socket in the head method. And by the help of that adhesive pad or adhesive organ, they will attach into the body of the starfish because the size is huge. So when the starfish will migrate inside the water, automatically this kind of starfish also migrate from one place to another place and conserve energy without harming the shark. So that is another kind of commensalism which is temporary. That is called as temporary commensalism. So this is about the commensalism. Then the third one is the parasitism. This is a little bit dangerous. Parasitism is a kind of animal association where one individual is getting benefit and the other individual is injured. So in mutualism, plus, in commensalism, +0, and in parasitism, that is plus and minus. The individual which is getting benefit are called as the parasite, and the individual in that association is become injured, they are called as the host. In our last class, already we discussed about the parasite, different types of parasites, and parasitic adaptations. The ectoparasite, endoparasite, obligatory parasite, facultative parasite, intracellular parasite, extracellular parasite, Jew parasite, phytoparasites. So you know about the parasites and parasitism. So this is a kind of interaction or animal association where one individual is getting benefit and another individual is injured. The best example is the different kind of the parasites or the worms which are present in the intestine of the living organism or multicellular animals. So intestine is different kind of worms. So they are the different kind of the parasites, and the body is the host. So this is the host-parasite interaction. That is called the parasitism. Now, the predation, if you think about the predation, this is also another kind of animal association. The predation is also another kind of animal association or relationship or interaction like the parasitism. But what is the difference between the parasitism and the predation is that if you think about the formula, that one individual is getting benefit and another individual is injured. Similarly, in case of the predation also, one individual is getting benefit and another individual is injured. Are you getting my point? But what is the definition of the predation then? The predation is a kind of interaction or association or relationship where one individual of one species will kill and consume, underline, kill and consume the other species or the individuals of other species. That is called as the predation. So the individual of one species that kills the another one, they are called as the predator, and killed by the predator, the individual killed by the predator are called as the prey. So this is a prey-predator interaction where the predator will kill and consume the prey used as food source. So that is called as the predation. So in the predation, one animal that kills and consumes another animal for their food. And here, if we think about the predation, the keynote species is important. Keynote species, this is a very good short question for you. Keynote species. What is keynote species? Some species, in their presence, they will adversely affect a particular community. By elimination, try to understand. By elimination of that particular species from that community, that will play a significant role in the establishment of that community. Are you getting my point? Once again, I will repeat. The keynote species, it is a kind of species in their presence that plays a significant role in that community. By removing or by eliminating that kind of species from that community, that will give a significant role to that community. For example, here the sea star species is the best example of the keystone species. And this sea star species that here will present in the community, that community is called as coral reef community. That community is called as coral reef community. And the sea stars place on the mussels and the sea urchins as their food molecules, as their food source. Are you getting my point? That consume the sea stars and the sea stars consume the sea urchins and the mussels as their food molecule. By removing or by eliminating the sea star, there is the significant growth, explosive growth of the sea urchin and the mussels in that community will take place. Therefore, the sea star species is a kind of keystone species. Are you getting my point? That is called as the keystone species. Right? The removal or the elimination will give a significant the effect to the community. Now, the another interaction is the carnivore. What is carnivorous animal? We know about the carnivore, omnivore, herbivores. So, what is carnivore? Carnivore means it is a kind of the biological interaction, or it is a kind of ecological interaction whereby one organism that consumes mostly the feed, the meat or the flesh of another individual. Are you getting my point? That means the meat and the flesh of another individual is the food of the one species. So it is a kind of ecological interaction where one individual will take the meat and the flesh as their food source, and they kill and consume the other kind of the organisms. That is called as the carnivore. So here, the carnivore, if you think about the carnivore, some animals, they take the meat and flesh as their food. They are called as the carnivorous animal, or they are carnivore. Now, all the carnivores are not obligatory carnivores. What is obligatory carnivore? What is obligatory carnivore? Obligatory, if you think about the obligatory, what is obligatory carnivore? Tiger or the lion, they are the best example of the carnivore or the obligatory carnivore. Obligatory carnivore. Obligatory carnivore means what? Obligatory means they consume only the flesh and the meat as their food source. They consume only the flesh and meat as their food source, like the tiger and the lion. They are obligatory carnivores. But some creatures are present in the biosphere or in the biotic component of the biosphere the 100% of their diet is not the flesh or the meat. If 100%, then they are the obligatory. But some 70% of their diet is meat or the flesh. Then they are called as the hypercarnivory. They are called as hypercarnivory. So hypercarnivory means 70% of their diet is meat or flesh. The example is your sea star. Similarly, some animals or some organisms in the biotic component of the biosphere, they take 50% of their diet as the meat or the flesh as their food source. 50% of their food is of flesh or meat. They are called as the mesocarnivory, 50%. And 50%, the rest 50% other kind of food source. Then the fox is the example, that is the mesocarnivory. And some animals, they use the meat and flesh as their food source, no doubt, but only 30% or less than that. Just like the deer, in case of the deer. So less than 30% of their diet is made up of or is of flesh or meat. They are called as hypocarnivory. So if you think about the carnivory, some are obligatory, some are hypercarnivory, some are mesocarnivory, and some are the hypocarnivory, hypo and hyper. And in between them, the mesocarnivory is there, that is 50%. Okay, they take the flesh and meat as their food source, or food molecule. And another one is the herbivory. Herbivorous animal. What is herbivory? I think you know about the herbivorous animals. The herbivorous animals are the individuals of one species that will consume the autotrophs or their products or their parts. They are called as herbivory. So the herbivory is a kind of a biological interaction where one individual of one species will consume the plants and plant products as their food molecules. They are called as herbivory. Are you getting my point? So you know about the cow. Okay? They are the best, the herbivory. They feed on different grasses. So carnivory, herbivory. And another one is the cannibalism. What is cannibalism? Cannibalism is just like a predation or it is just like a carnivory. But the important thing here is that this individual of this species will consume the individuals of the same species. Underline. Are you getting my point? So cannibalism means they will consume the individuals of same species. Chimpanzee, praying mantis. These are the examples. Here the praying mantis, you think about the praying mantis, the praying mantis will consume, the female particularly, the female praying mantis will consume its partner, that is the male praying mantis, as their food molecule. That is the cannibalism. They take the tissues and the body parts of the own species. I am getting my point, as their food molecule. Similarly, chimpanzee also consume their own species. That is called as cannibalism. Then another interaction that is called as the antagonism. So the word antagonism itself indicates that it gives the negative impact or the harmful impact. So if you think about the antagonism, what is antagonism? It is an interaction between the individuals of two species where both the individuals are injured. Then what will be the formula? Negative. So both the individuals will be injured in this kind of the interaction that is called as antagonism. So antagonism, the competition is there. That means the struggle for existence is there, so that they will compete. And in that competition, the outcome of the competition is the adverse effect to both individuals. Okay? The result or the output of the competition is the negative or the adverse effect to both the individuals of the species. That is called as the computation. So computation is when two or more species of a population interacts for use of a common limited resources. Why computation will take place? The computation takes place for the resources which are limited and same for both individuals. Therefore, the computation will take place. And in that computation, what will happen? Both individuals are affected. And here, if the competition is taking place between the individuals of the same species, the competition is taking place between the individuals of the same species, then that is called as intraspecific competition. Intraspecific competition. Whereas the competition between two different kind of individuals of two different species, that is called as interspecific interaction. Interspecific interaction. So here the interspecific competition among the individuals of the same species and interspecific interaction between two different species. Between two different species. Here, see, the competition, here the struggle is there, or the competition is there for their survival, for their food, for their shelter, in between the individuals of the same species. Therefore, this is the example of the interspecific competition. Whereas these are two different carnivores, the tiger and the lion. So the interaction is taking place between them. That is the example of interspecific interaction. Interspecific interaction. That is the example of the antagonism where both the individuals are affected. Now, if you think about the interspecific competition, what will be output sometimes? The interspecific competition that leads to the competitive exclusion and sometimes extinction. So, what is the competitive exclusion? Suppose the two individuals, are getting my point? This is the interspecific interaction we are discussing. In the interspecific interaction, two individuals of two different species, they will interact. And what for? They will interact to use a limited resources. So in that case, what will happen? One individual of one species will completely exclude the another species. Completely exclude from that resource. So that resource will be utilized by a single species only. I'm getting my point. So the competitive exclusion means it is the example of the interspecific competition where two individuals of two different species, they will interact for the use of limited resources. And sometimes what will happen? One species or individual of one species entirely exclude the another species of that competition. That is called as competitive exclusion. That is called as competitive exclusion. I'm getting my point? In the interspecific interaction. But if you think about the intraspecific competition, that means the competition between the individuals of the same species, that is intraspecific. So in that competition, what for? Same thing, for their use of limited resources. Now, in that competition, what will happen sometimes? They have a very good understanding. Both the species or both the individuals, they will interact in such a that leads to the evolution of specialization. Try to understand. In interspecific competition means the competition between the individuals of the same species for the use of the limited resources. Sometimes what will happen, they have the interaction or association or relationship in such a that leads to the evolution of specialization. Then what is specialization? That means they have a very good understanding that I will utilize this component of the resources and you utilize this component of these resources. The resources is the same, but they will utilize differently. For example, suppose you think about the unknown leaders. These are the leaders. These leaders, they are present or they live together here in the tropical rainforest. So the tropical rainforest is the habitat of these lizards. And what is their food? The insects are their food. Insects are their food. Three things are there. The lizard, they are present in the tropical rainforest, and their food is the insects. So these lizards, they have a very good understanding that some lizards, they will collect the insects which are present on the ground, which are present in the base of the tropical rainforest. So they will consume the insects which are present in the base or in the ground. And they are the ground animal lizards. Their territory or their collection, the food collection is from the base or from the ground. While the tree animal lizards, they will collect the insects which are present in the tree. So the insects which are present in the tree, some lizards, they will consume that kind of insects as their food. So there is a very good understanding and specialization that you are the ground dwellers, collect the insect from the ground, and I will collect the insect from the trees. This kind of separation is there. That is called as the specialization of the individuals of the same species in a particular habitat, because the resources are limited. The resources are limited. Are you getting my point? So that is called as, sometimes the inter-specific competition leads to the specialization. So inter-specific competition leads to the competitive exclusion, while in inter-specific competition that leads to the specialization sometimes. Now the conclusion is that part for these kind of the species interaction is taking place in the biotic component of the biosphere. What is the significance? Why these kind of interactions are there? You know about the food chain, you know about the food webs, the importance of the food chain and the importance of the food web in the biosphere. So all the individuals, they interact with one another for their food, shelter, and the habitat, for their food and habitat, mostly for space. And here they interact among themselves in such a way that the nature of the biosphere becomes stable. There is a concept that is called as the nature of a balance or balance of nature. What is that balance of nature? The balance of nature means the nature maintains the different biotic component of the biosphere or the different species of the biosphere. So all these species which are present in the biosphere in the form of biotic component, they interact among themselves in such a way that, or in the form of food chain and food web, in such a way that all these species are getting the food, the resources and the space or the shelter or the habitat for their survival. So species interaction, without species interaction, suppose one species will not interact with the another kind of the species, then they will not survive. So the intimacy or the association, not only it is not restricted to the human beings, not restricted to the mammals. This kind of intimacy and the association or the relationship is found in all the species which are existing today in the nature or in the biosphere. If they will not interact, if there is no association, then what will be the outcome? The outcome will be extinction. The outcome will be the extinction. So, if the individual will not interact, if the species will not interact, then automatically, in the struggle for existence, or by the natural selection, they will be not selected out, and they have to eliminate it out from the biosphere. So, intimacy and association is always helpful for the better survival of the individuals. So, this is the importance of this species interaction. And for this, these are the references I followed. That is different. These are the articles which are published in different years. I collected the information from these are the photographs from these kind of articles for your reference. Thank you very much.